Have you ever noticed how everyone seems terrified of being alone these days? Look around, phones constantly pinging, calendars packed with meetings, social media endless scrolling, all to avoid that moment when it's just you. But what if I told you that the very thing you're running from holds the key to your freedom? Right now, I want you to imagine something radical. What if being alone isn't your problem, but your solution? Let me ask you this. When was the last time you heard your own thoughts without someone else's voice drowning them out? When did you last make a decision that wasn't influenced by others' expectations? The wisest teachers throughout history didn't find enlightenment in crowded rooms. They found it in moments of profound solitude. They understood what our hyper-connected world makes us forget. True power comes from knowing yourself. And you can only truly know yourself when there's no one else around. Today, we're diving into the first of 5 life-changing lessons about the art of being alone. I promise you this, by the end of our journey together, you'll no longer see solitude as something to endure, but as something to treasure. You'll stop filling every silent moment and start savoring them instead. Are you ready to discover how the simple act of being consciously alone can transform everything? Because this first lesson might just change the way you live. The teacher sat beneath a towering oak tree, eyes closed, yet fully awake to the world around him. A young student approached hesitantly, having traveled for days seeking wisdom. "Why do you sit here alone?" the student asked. "Wouldn't your teachings reach more people in the village?" The teacher smiled. Notice how this oak stands, neither leaning on other trees nor competing with them. It grows tall because it has found its own space. He gestured toward the empty spot beside him. "Sit with me in silence for a while." Silence serves as our first and perhaps greatest teacher when we learn to be alone. Unlike the awkward quietness we rush to fill during conversations, intentional silence opens spaces within us where wisdom can emerge. Like still water that gradually becomes clear enough to see through, a quiet mind reveals truths that constant noise conceals. Many confuse solitude with loneliness, yet they differ as profoundly as hunger differs from fasting. Loneliness is an unwanted absence that leaves us feeling empty. Solitude, however, is presence, a deliberate choice to be with yourself without distraction. One depletes, the other nourishes. Learning this distinction marks the beginning of transforming isolated moments from something we fear into something we cherish. The ancient practice of withdrawing temporarily from society has roots in nearly every wisdom tradition. Even the busiest teacher would retreat alone to mountain caves or forest huts, not to escape responsibilities, but to see them more clearly. Like stepping back from a painting to appreciate its full design, these periods of seclusion provide perspective impossible to gain while immersed in daily demands. Developing single-pointed attention becomes possible only when we remove ourselves from constant stimulation. Just as a musician must hear each note clearly to play beautifully, our minds need space to distinguish between important signals and mere noise. Alone, we can finally practice the art of focused awareness, giving full attention to one breath, one thought, one sensation at a time. Nature itself becomes an unmatched teacher during solitude. Watch how a stream flows around obstacles rather than fighting them. Notice how trees bend with strong winds instead of breaking. The natural world demonstrates perfect response without reaction. A lesson more easily absorbed in silent observation than through any book or lecture. Learning to speak kindly to yourself emerges as another crucial aspect of healthy solitude. The voice in your head, critical or compassionate, becomes your constant companion when alone. Many avoid solitude precisely because this internal dialogue grows uncomfortably loud without distractions. Yet facing this voice begins the work of transforming it from harsh judge to supportive friend. Throughout history, dedicated practitioners have chosen extended solitude not as punishment but as privilege. Their stories reveal how initial discomfort gradually transforms into profound peace. One monk described his first year of solitary retreat as facing an internal storm, the second as occasional showers, and the third as clear skies. These accounts remind us that the challenges of being alone often precede its greatest gifts. The deliberate practice of physical and mental seclusion creates space for growth impossible in constant company. Like a seed that needs darkness before it can reach toward light, certain aspects of our potential unfold only when we step away from external influences and expectations. This doesn't mean abandoning connection permanently. Rather, it means discovering parts of yourself that make future connections more authentic and meaningful. Now that you understand the art of conscious solitude, it's time to explore how being alone teaches you to fill your own emotional cup. This next lesson reveals perhaps the most transformative aspect of solitude, becoming your own source of emotional nourishment. The woman sat on a small cushion by her window, rain tapping gently against the glass. Only weeks ago, this apartment had felt devastatingly empty after her partner left. Now, with each passing day of solitude, she was discovering something unexpected, a growing sense of fullness that came from within rather than from another person's presence. We often experience an inner emptiness that feels unbearable, a hollow space we desperately try to fill with other people, endless activities, social media validation, or constant entertainment. Like a hungry ghost with an insatiable appetite, we reach outside ourselves, convinced something external will finally make us feel complete. But this searching follows a predictable pattern. Temporary satisfaction followed by returning emptiness, like a wheel constantly turning. Learning to direct kindness toward yourself becomes essential when no one else is around to offer it. Try this simple practice. Place your hand on your heart and speak to yourself with the same warmth you'd offer a dear friend who's struggling. This is difficult, but you're doing your best. This isn't selfish, it's necessary groundwork for genuine happiness that doesn't depend on changing circumstances. Developing balance amid emotional storms represents another crucial skill of self-sufficiency. When you're alone, there's no one to blame for your feelings or rescue you from them. One helpful approach is to imagine your emotions as weather patterns, intense at times, but always temporary. The sky of your awareness remains unchanged whether clouds of sadness or sunshine of joy are passing through. Solitude also acts as a mirror, reflecting back your habitual patterns with uncomfortable clarity. Without distractions, you notice how you abandon yourself in subtle ways through harsh self-criticism, avoiding difficult emotions, or neglecting your true needs. A man who spent 30 days in a solitary retreat described his experience. By day 10, I couldn't blame anyone else for my unhappiness. I finally saw how I was creating it myself. Finding contentment with what's already present marks a turning point in emotional independence. Instead of needing more, better, or different circumstances to feel okay, you learn to appreciate the simple fact of being alive in this moment. The morning light on your kitchen table, the taste of fresh water, the rhythm of your breath. These humble experiences become enough when recognized with full attention. Staying with uncomfortable feelings without escaping them builds emotional resilience. When loneliness, boredom, or anxiety arise, the instinct is to reach for your phone, turn on the TV, or call someone anything to avoid feeling what's present. But choosing to remain with difficult emotions, even for 5 minutes longer than you normally would, gradually builds your capacity to handle life's inevitable pains without becoming overwhelmed. The deepest fear behind avoiding solitude is often abandonment, the primal terror of being left alone, unwanted, and unloved. By willingly spending time with yourself, you begin healing this ancient wound. You prove to your nervous system that being alone isn't dangerous. It's an opportunity to offer yourself the acceptance and belonging you've been seeking from others. A wise teacher once said, "The person who learns to be alone never actually feels lonely because they've become their own good company." Having discovered how to embrace solitude and become emotionally self-sufficient, You're now ready for the third lesson, transforming your mind into a peaceful home where you can truly rest. The young architect had designed beautiful houses for others, yet found no peace in his own home. Despite his expertise in creating physical spaces, his mind remained cluttered, noisy, and uncomfortable until an old teacher showed him how to build an inner sanctuary that no storm could disturb. Creating a mental sanctuary begins with understanding that your mind is a space you inhabit every moment of your life. Just as you might arrange furniture in a room for comfort and function, you can organize your inner environment. Start by removing mental clutter, unnecessary worries about the future, replayed arguments from the past, and judgments that serve no purpose. Then add elements that bring clarity and calm moments of quiet reflection, inspiring thoughts, and memories that remind you of your deeper values. True mental solitude means more than just being physically alone. It means creating distance between yourself and the constant stream of thoughts that usually hijack your attention. This doesn't require forcing your thoughts to stop. That only makes them louder. Instead, it means recognizing that you are the spacious awareness in which thoughts appear, not the thoughts themselves. Like stepping back from a busy highway to watch the traffic from a hillside, you create inner space by observing mental activity rather than being swept away by it. The mind's tendency to identify with every thought creates unnecessary suffering. A more helpful approach is to watch your thoughts like clouds in the sky, sometimes dark and stormy, sometimes light and wispy, but always moving and changing. Notice how they form, drift across your awareness, and dissolve again. Nothing to cling to, nothing to push away. The architect discovered that his anxiety-producing thoughts were not facts he needed to believe, just temporary patterns passing through awareness. Deeper states of focused calm become possible when you're truly alone. Without external interruptions, you can develop the mind's natural ability to settle. Like a snow globe that becomes clear when allowed to rest, the mind reveals its inherent clarity when not constantly shaken by stimulation. Try this. Set aside 20 minutes to focus on just one thing, your breath, a candle flame, or even the sensation of walking. When your attention wanders, gently bring it back. This simple practice, repeated regularly, creates a profound inner stability. Many people avoid solitude because they fear boredom, that restless, uncomfortable feeling when nothing captures our interest. Yet boredom transformed into full presence becomes a gateway to discovering the richness of ordinary moments. Instead of reaching for your phone when boredom strikes, try staying with the feeling. Notice the subtle details of your environment, the play of light on the wall, the sensation of air on skin, the rise and fall of your breath. The present moment, when entered fully, is never truly boring. Bringing careful attention to everyday solitary activities transforms the mundane into the meaningful. Whether washing dishes, preparing a meal just for yourself, or walking from room to room, try doing these activities with full awareness. The teacher showed the architect how even sweeping the floor could become a profound practice. When done with complete attention, not rushing to finish, not thinking about what's next, just fully experiencing the simple movement of the broom. Cultivating a sense of inner safety doesn't depend on external circumstances. Through specific practices of visualization, you can create a feeling of refuge within your own mind. Imagine a place, real or imagined, where you feel completely safe, accepted, and at peace. It might be a sun-warmed meadow, a cozy room with a fireplace, or the base of an ancient tree. When external conditions feel threatening or internal states become overwhelming, mentally step into the sanctuary. The details matter. See the colors, feel the textures, hear the sounds. This inner refuge remains available anytime, regardless of external circumstances. After learning to embrace conscious solitude, develop emotional self-sufficiency, and create a peaceful mental dwelling, we encounter what might seem like a contradiction. solitude actually improves our relationships with others. This fourth lesson reveals how being comfortable alone transforms how we connect with people around us. The retired teacher had always been surrounded by students, colleagues, family members. Her calendar overflowed with appointments and obligations. Yet despite constant company, she often felt oddly disconnected, as if something important remained missing from these interactions. It wasn't until her retirement, when she finally experienced extended time alone, that she discovered what had been missing herself. She had been so busy responding to others that she'd never developed her own center. The most surprising discovery about solitude is how it enhances our connections rather than diminishing them. Like a tree that needs space to extend its roots deep into soil before it can spread its branches wide. Humans need periods of aloneness to develop the inner resources necessary for genuine connection. The teacher noticed that after several months of living more solitary days, her fewer interactions with others felt richer, more present, and more satisfying. She no longer needed constant contact to feel connected. In constant company, we often wear invisible masks, subtle adjustments to our behavior, speech, and even thoughts based on what we believe others expect from us. These adaptations happen so automatically, we rarely notice them. Solitude removes the pressure to perform and allows us to rediscover who we are when no one is watching. The teacher realized she had different laughs for different people and had been unconsciously monitoring her facial expressions for decades. Alone, her face relaxed into its natural state, and gradually, she brought this authenticity into her relationships. Understanding the difference between healthy connection and dependence becomes possible only when we've experienced being whole and complete while alone. Healthy attachments enhance our lives without becoming our life source, like two whole trees growing side by side rather than a vine desperately clinging to a host. The teacher realized some of her relationships had been based on mutual need rather than mutual appreciation, a pattern she could only recognize after experiencing her own completeness. Learning to maintain your center even in crowded rooms represents another gift of solitude practice. The teacher discovered that she could bring the spacious awareness cultivated in her quiet apartment into busy family gatherings. Rather than being swept away by others' emotions or losing herself in group dynamics, she could remain present with both herself and others, simultaneously, like keeping one foot on shore while wading into flowing water. Compassion deepens through the self-knowledge gained in solitude. When we faced our own pain without flinching and offered kindness to our own struggles, we naturally extend this understanding to others. The teacher found herself listening differently, not just to respond, but to truly understand. Having witnessed her own complex emotional landscape in silence, she recognized similar patterns in others without judgment or the need to fix them. The quality of attention we bring to relationships transforms after developing concentration in solitude. Instead of half listening while planning our response, we learn to offer our complete presence, a rare and precious gift in today's distracted world. Friends noticed the change in the teacher's listening. "I feel like you really see me now," one said. "It's as if you're actually here with me, not just physically present." Freedom from unhealthy relationship patterns becomes possible once we break the habit of using others to escape ourselves. Many connections form around mutual avoidance, drinking together to numb feelings, gossiping to distract from personal dissatisfaction, or creating drama to feel alive. After befriending her own company, the teacher noticed she no longer participated in these dynamics. Instead, she sought relationships that enhanced rather than escaped awareness. Having learned how to embrace conscious solitude, become emotionally self-sufficient, cultivate a peaceful mind, and deepen your relationships, we arrive at our final lesson, discovering how solitude unlocks your creative potential and clearest sense of purpose. The artist had always worked in busy studios surrounded by other creatives. She believed the energy of others fueled her imagination until a 3-month residency placed her in a remote cabin with only trees and birdsong for company. The first weeks felt barren. Her canvases remained stubbornly blank as she waited for inspiration that never came. But as the empty days stretched on, something unexpected happened. The very emptiness she feared became the soil from which entirely new forms of expression grew. True creative potential often emerges not from constant stimulation, but from the fertile void that solitude provides. When external influences temporarily fade, we create space for something original to emerge. The artist discovered that her previous work, though technically skilled, had been unconsciously derivative echoes of teachers, trends, and peers rather than her authentic voice. Only in the absence of these influences could she hear the quieter, stranger, more truthful expressions waiting beneath the surface. Discovering your unique path becomes possible when you step away from the collective current carrying everyone in the same direction. The artist spent entire days walking forest trails with no particular destination. This aimless wandering paradoxically led her toward her truest direction. Without the need to explain or justify her choices to others, she found herself drawn to unexpected materials and themes that made no logical sense but felt deeply right. This natural unfolding revealed a way of creating that belonged uniquely to her. Deep states of flow and inspiration often occur most powerfully in solitude. Without interruption, the mind can descend below its surface, chatter into deeper currents of creativity. The artist began experiencing stretches of time where hours passed unnoticed, her hands seeming to work with a wisdom beyond her conscious planning. These weren't states she could force or manufacture. They emerged naturally when she created the conditions of uninterrupted solitude and receptive attention. Finding balance between deliberate effort and relaxed allowing becomes another gift of solitary creation. The artist observed how her best work emerged neither from straining nor from passivity, but from a middle path showing up consistently at her work table while remaining open to what wanted to emerge. Some days she worked for hours with nothing to show. Other days a single brushstroke revealed exactly what the piece needed. She learned to trust this dance between doing and being. Your most natural expression of ethics and values emerges clearly in solitude. Without social pressure or the need for approval, you discover what truly matters to you. The artist realized she had been creating work she thought would impress gallery owners rather than expressing what felt meaningful. Alone, she found herself drawn to themes of impermanence and interconnection. These weren't conscious choices, but natural expressions of her deepest values, finally given space to emerge. The intention to benefit others can arise spontaneously from solitude rather than from obligation. As her residency neared its end, the artist found herself creating not just for self-expression, but with a genuine desire to share what she'd discovered. This wasn't the familiar striving for recognition, but something quieter and truer, a natural wish for her work to ease suffering and bring clarity to others. She realized that meaningful contribution flows naturally from a well-tended inner life. Writing with reflective awareness transforms solitary hours into stepping stones toward greater clarity. The artist began each morning writing 3 pages without purpose or direction, just letting thoughts flow on the paper without judgment. This practice became a bridge between her unconscious mind and her creative work. Through these daily conversations with herself, patterns emerged, insights crystallized, and her artistic vision gained coherence. What began as random musings gradually revealed the unique contribution only she could make. Now that we've explored these 5 powerful lessons about solitude together, I want to ask you something. Which of these lessons resonated most deeply with you? Was it learning to embrace conscious solitude, discovering emotional self-sufficiency, creating a peaceful mind, deepening your relationships, or unlocking your creativity? The path of intentional solitude is one of the most transformative journeys you can take. Yet so few people in our hyper-connected world ever experience its gifts. If these teachings spoke to your heart today, chances are they'll also speak to someone else in your life who might be struggling with loneliness, seeking deeper purpose, or simply feeling overwhelmed by constant connection. By sharing this video, you're not just spreading information, you're offering someone a doorway to freedom they might desperately need. Someone in your circle may be exactly where the artist, the teacher, the architect, or the woman in our stories once stood, afraid of being alone, unaware that what they're avoiding contains exactly what they're seeking. If you'd like to continue this journey of wisdom together, subscribe to our channel. Each week, we explore another aspect of these timeless teachings in ways that can be applied directly to your modern life. No complicated language, no abstract theories, just practical wisdom for real transformation. Remember, true happiness isn't found in escaping yourself, but in finally meeting yourself fully. The next time you find yourself alone, instead of reaching for your phone, maybe just stay there a little longer and see what you discover. Thank you for your presence today. Until next time, may you find peace and solitude and purpose in your path.